Hi everyone, my name is Megan Wood. I'm the Primary Music CTL, and today we're going to go over a unit. So we're calling this a unit preview. This is basically me walking you through how I came up with my unit and what each box is about and the unit itself. So my email is mewood or mewood@uplifteducation.org. If you have any questions, go ahead and jot them down through the presentation and feel free to email me at any time. So let's go ahead and let's get started. So the goals of this presentation are to give you ideas to work with for your first unit of the school year. It's also to enhance your developing understanding of the PYP unit planning, to guide you through my thinking as I've created this document, and to facilitate dialogue with questions or ideas that you might have. Now, making the PYP happen, I want you to embrace the process because it is a lot. Growth and development is our goal rather than perfection, so just remember that as we go along, and each school is at different levels in the authorization process, so just keep up with your school and you should be great. So moving on, here are some tools for planning, and this all can be found on Blackboard. So making the PYP happen, the scope and sequence, the PYP unit planner template. Also take into account the collaboration that you have with your campus grade level team, if possible, and your campus POI. And again, the POI is the program of inquiry, if that is available. If not, there's one Uplift has as well that you can go from. So looking at the planner, we're going to just go box by box, and I'm going to explain how my thought around each box and how I decided to put things together. So box 1 is basically where the transdisciplinary theme is displayed, and there are 6 transdisciplinary themes, and each grade level touches on them every year, but they touch on different parts of them. So taking a look at this transdisciplinary theme, it says an inquiry into the interconnectedness of human-made systems and communities. Now, the bolded or the italicized part of this, the structures and the function of organizations, is what I am using to focus on. So the transdisciplinary theme always stays the same, but what can change is what's underneath of it, and that's the central idea. So for 5th grade, during this time, the central idea was laws are made to provide structure to society. Now, I don't want you to get caught up too much exactly on the central idea of using that idea exactly. I want you to think of how music connects to that central idea. So the connection I made to that is the laws and rules of music theory are used to provide structure to a composition, just like laws provide structures and functions to government systems and organizations. So that was my tie-in. So I'm thinking how laws tie into music. So now we're going to take a look over on the next box over. The next box over basically is your information box. So that's your grade, your age group, your school code if you like, the title, teacher, date, and proposed duration. Now the proposed duration will vary from school to school. It just depends on how many times you actually see your scholar and your school setup. Moving on, box 1B. So box 1B basically is your summative assessment. So I want you to keep in mind that the summative assessment ultimately needs to align with the transdisciplinary theme. That being said, the summative assessment basically is the big test at the end to assess scholars' understanding of the central idea and the transdisciplinary theme. So I actually created 2 different rubrics ahead of time to assess this. So I have a summative assessment checklist that's more on my side, and then I also have a scholar rubric checklist as well, and this was something that the scholars saw and went by. Next, in box 2 basically directly reflects the central idea that you've chosen. And this is done through picking key concepts, lines of inquiry, and the provocations. So the key concepts, you basically pick from the list that is there, but each time you pick one, I want you to really think about how it connects to your central idea. So if you choose these ahead of time and you really think about them, it's going to make it more worthwhile, and scholars are going to get more understanding out of the lesson. So next, say the first one I picked in this example was function. And I said the function note duration / value plays in a composition. So you don't have to think too deep about this, but just find a way that you can connect these key concepts with your unit. Next, the lines of inquiry. So the first one I have that I picked was structure of government and society. To me, I related that over to the structure of music theory. Next, let's go over to the teacher provocations and questions that drive these inquiries. Basically, your provocation, look at this box as it is a giant hook into the unit. So this is the big question. If you have a video or a book that you want to show or kind of lead the scholars into these thoughts, go ahead and put that down. I did. You can see I put how to read music from a TED Talk, and I put that from YouTube. I also went ahead and put a bunch of questions up underneath of that as well. Next, we're going to talk about box 3 and box 4. Box 3 and box 4 can be a little tricky if you don't quite understand the purpose of them. So box 3 is actually where formal and informal assessments to check for scholar understanding are placed. Now box 4 is about how those activities that you're going to learn about, the activities that you're doing to learn about the unit. So box 3 basically is the formal and informal assessments, and box 4 is the different things you're doing to learn. Also in box 4, you have the learner profile attributes and you have the attitudes. You get to pick from a list that are there in the PYP. Just keep in mind as you pick from them how it really can connect to the unit and how it relates to the transdisciplinary theme and the central ideas. Box 5 basically is a resource box. Well, there are two parts to box 5. So the first part of box 5 is your resources. It's your scores, it's your music, it's your musical examples that you're going to play, your YouTube videos, other materials such as worksheets or blank staff paper, things that are needed for the lesson. Now, the bottom part of box 5 is a part that gets overlooked a lot. And that is basically saying how your classroom environment, local environment, and our community is going to be used to facilitate the inquiry. So for this one, I have scholars will display their composition in the hallway, so that would be as a school environment, and perform them during our IB assembly, again school, and Americana choral concert. So basically, we're using the school, we're using the classroom environment, we're using the school environment, and then we're using the community for a choral concert to facilitate the inquiry. There's a lot of different things you can think about and do during this time, especially for this part, being music teacher. Now, when you're filling this out, when you first start your unit, you're going to leave boxes 6, 7, 8, and 9 blank, because those are the boxes that are the reflection boxes, and you're going to fill out at the end. So each box, they're all kind of similar, but they're a little bit different. So let's go over those. Box 6 is basically on how you achieved the purpose of the unit, the transdisciplinary theme, and the central idea. Box 7 is to what extent did you include the elements of the PYP. Box 8 are what student inquiries arose from the learning, and were there any student initiated actions that take place, either individual or groups that showing their ability to reflect or choose and to act. So basically this box 8 is, what are the scholars doing? Were there any questions they asked? What proved that they understood? And box 9, basically box 9 is the teacher box. That's the teacher's notes. This is your overall thought of how the unit went, what you would do to change it next time. But I just want to say, during the unit, it really helps to make notes each week and to make reflections each week. That way you don't forget how things went. I think often we tend to push everything aside to the last minute and we miss out on a lot of information. So that is kind of my thought process as I went through and I created this unit. If you have any questions, feel free to go ahead and email me, and good luck this upcoming school year.